Hello, good evening, everyone. Yeah, kind of very cool, isn't it? Yeah, I noticed that there's a lot of kind of mix. Um, yeah, good evening, Ramid, Tamilaris, C, Savit, Lal. Well, the name Lal reminds me of the case we did about the Jugad, the Suhan Lal, I think, if you can remember it. That name Lal is his name. Anyway, that's pretty good. Okay. Today we're going to look at the decision tree. I made mention of it during the last session, and I promise we're going to take a closer look at it. I'm going to make the material available. I was supposed to make it available to everyone at the same time, but it appears I changed my mind because I wanted us to concentrate on the material together, and then after that, I can make it available to everyone. Did anyone check on the last problem we had about what decision to make for BRIM? Well, it's good you try a hand on it. And this particular part of the course is very important when it comes to making decisions. And the decision tree is just one way of making decisions. Again, it's very practical, it's very clear, it's kind of analytical, and you take your time and you look at all the different options, and then you put it on a tree. So we're going to look at the tree here, and we're going to go through this particular document together. And then you can see how we can do some analysis in all the cases in the future. And in some of the case studies we've already looked at, you could as well go back to them, take a closer look at the different options. You can try to use the decision tree as well. I highly recommend it that we try our hands on them. Okay, I'm going to take my video away, so I'm not a distraction. Okay, good. Here you go. Now, what's a decision tree? Now, why do we need a decision tree? You know, I'm just going to go through this step by step. So let's follow up. If anybody misses out, you know, you're going to get caught up at some point. So the analysis of complex decisions with significant uncertainty can be very confusing. Now, because of four reasons. The first is that the consequence that will result from selecting any specific decisions alternative cannot be predicted with certainty. Sometimes you have to make decisions, but you don't know what's going to happen. You're not very certain of the outcome. Sometimes you take a decision, you wait and see what happens. Sometimes it turns out to be good, and other times it turns out to be not so good or not as expected. But again, there is always an uncertainty in decision. And I'm sure your decision to also study, maybe go for a BBA or go for an MBA or whatever, you had a bit of uncertainty at some point, and you weren't quite sure what to do or where to go to, and these uncertainties, it makes decisions very difficult and complex. The next reason is there are often a large number of different factors that must be taken into account when making the decision. Now, you might want to pursue higher education, but again, there are lots of factors that you have to take into account. Can we list some of those factors? If for an adult anyway, not for a child or for a young a teenager whose most of the decisions are made by their parents. So if you decide to pursue higher education as an adult, what are some of the factors you would consider? Can we just type them in? Let me give one. One is maybe finance. Can we type in other factors that we have to consider before we decide whether or not to pursue higher education? Some of you are for PVA, some of you are for MBA, and other different courses. So can I see some of those factors? Let's share them together anyway. One of the factors, like I said, is finance. Prabhu says our interests, background of our qualification. Okay, good. Your interest is important. The background of your previous qualification is also important. Nijat says opportunity. That's important because you want to make a choice that has opportunities, attached to it. So it says career. Yeah, it's a career choice. You want to grow in your career and you're looking for a particular subject or course that is going to help you in your career, or that is career oriented. Yeah, what are some of the factors again? Time. That's important, Rahul. Time is always a problem for so many people. So you have to take into consideration time as well. What again? There are lots of these factors. When we start listing these factors, then we can easily understand how complex it is to make decisions sometimes. Have we exhausted all the factors? I think there are still a whole litany of them which we haven't talked about. There is also location. Where are you going to study? Is it far away? Is it close? And, that's a problem. That's another factor. Location is a factor. It's important. Another factor is which university. You have to make a choice which of the university to choose from. There is a whole litany of choice of universities. Like, Najit said the same. Which institute? If it's an institute, there are lots of them out there, and we have to make a choice. And your circumstances, like what circumstances? They're very broad. There are so many circumstances you have to. Okay, family support. That's also important, Prabha. You need a support from the family. Sometimes you've got a family that needs you so much, or maybe you don't think your family is comfortable with your decision. And again, family support can be looked at from two different angles, or maybe three or four. But we can look at it from agreeing with it, and we can also look at it from financial support. If you're going to school and then you're spending money, how do you support the family financially? And again, on the other hand, does the family feel comfortable with you leaving them and going to pursue higher education? And then communication problem like language. That's important. Yeah, some people find it difficult to understand other people, but I don't think anyone here finds it difficult to understand me. Are they? Transport mode, that's important. If it's far away, like we looked at the case example of the lady who had to go work in the city, and then she had to decide. That's very good, Bravo. You could remember it. I don't know if that's what made you. Okay, Rahul also said health issues. Now, you see, there are lots of different factors that we have to put together to make a decision. Now, the third, it may be useful to consider the possibility of reducing the uncertainty in decisions by collecting additional information. Now, sometimes you want to make a decision. What does it mean? Maybe you want to choose a university. Maybe you want to work somewhere, and you don't really know what's going to happen. But to reduce the uncertainty, sometimes you can get extra information from other people who have more information or more knowledge about that particular issue. If it's a university, maybe you can ask a couple of other people who know more about universities. If it's a job, you can ask a couple of people maybe who work for the same firm or company to give you more information about that company. There are lots of ways you can get information. Sometimes you can go to the internet. You can surf and search information more about what you want to do. And then this information will help you reduce the level of uncertainty. So it's never too good to just rush into a decision without, taking the necessary precaution. And the fourth aspect is that a decision maker's attitude towards risk-taking can impact the relative desirability of different alternatives. Some people like to take risk, some people don't. Is that true? Some people are high risk takers. They can decide to do things that is going to keep other people breathless. But other people are very scared. They don't want to take risk. So again, how comfortable you are in taking risk is going to affect the decision you want to make. If you're somebody who is very scared of risk, you're definitely going to make decisions that are less risky, and vice versa. But again, sometimes they say the more the risk, the more the gain. Okay. So in this chapter, which I just got this chapter, we're going to look at decision tree analysis, and the procedure for addressing such complexity. So because making decisions can be very, very complex, sometimes we have to try to use the decision tree to eliminate, different issues before we arrive at a particular decision. So I hope this lesson is going to be very interesting. Okay, let's look at an example. Now, to illustrate the analysis approach, a decision tree is used in the following example to help make a decision. So we're going to look at this problem. So this is a product decision. So it's a firm that has to make a decision whether or not to produce a particular product. Now, let's look at what happened. To absorb some short-term excess production capacity at its Arizona plant, Special Instrument Products, that is the name of the firm, Special Instrument Products, is considering a short manufacturing run for either of two new products. Now, there are two products they are thinking of producing. The first one is a temperature sensor, and the second one is a pressure sensor. Now, the market for each product is known if the product can be successfully developed. Now, however, there is some chance that it will not be possible to successfully develop them. Now, what are the different issues? Now, let's look at it from the revenue point of view. Now, revenue of $1 million could be realized from selling the temperature sensor? Again, everybody should put, I suggest everyone has a piece of paper and a pen, because it's going to be a bit bumpy ride. So we can also have the facts, because as I'm scrolling, I'm going to, you won't be able to see this particular information again. So it's important you have a pen and a paper, or maybe a pencil or something to take down some of the points. So again, revenue of $1 million would be realized from selling the temperature sensor, and revenue of $400,000 would be realized for selling the pressure sensor. Okay. Now, both of these amounts are net of production costs, but do not include development costs. So the net profit, that's it, without including the cost of production or development. Now, if development is unsuccessful for a product, then there will be no sales. Oh, that's not too good. And the development costs will be totally lost. Now, development costs would be $100,000 for the temperature sensor and $10,000 for the pressure sensor. So we can see a kind of twisted situation. Now let's look at the tree that tries to give us more information about that. Now let's look at the tree here. Let me make my mouse visible. Can everyone see my mouse? Okay, that's good. Now, so this is it. Now, the pressure, if we decide to produce the pressure sensor, to develop that pressure sensor, it's going to cost our company $100,000. And if after production, the product is successful, that is, we sell the product, that is a success, we're going to have sales revenue of $1 million. Now, but again, what is the net profit? We have to remove our development costs from the net, from the sales revenue to see the net profit. So the net profit is $900,000. But if we develop it and we spend $100,000 and then it fails, we do not sell, or maybe the market doesn't want it, or there is some flaws in it, then we're going to lose $100,000. Now, if we decide to produce the pressure sensor, it's going to cost us $10,000. Now, if it's successful, then we're going to sell, for the revenue that's going to come in, is going to be $400,000. So, but what is the net profit? We have to take away the cost of development from the sales revenue to have $390,000. But if it is a failure, then we're going to lose $10,000. Now, if we decide not to produce either of them, then we are not losing anything, so we are not making any money. Now, let me ask you, so if you were the production manager, what would you do? What decision would you make? Would you decide to produce or not? And if you decide to produce, which are you going to decide, which are you going to produce? Are you going to produce the temperature sensor, or are you going to produce the pressure sensor? Okay, Norman says we will produce. Pio says temperature sensor, and I think somebody, Civic also says temperature sensor. And yeah, I think we're having mixed comments coming in, and Norman says, Civic says pressure sensor, and now, what is the rationale behind it? Why do you want to produce a temperature sensor, or why would you decide to produce a pressure sensor. Can you add a little bit more information to your choice? So you can just put pressure sensor equal to, or you can abbreviate it. You can put PS for pressure sensor, or you can use TS for temperature sensor. So you can say TS because blah 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 and like that. Okay, let's see what Nathan says. Norman says we have to check the market and take risk. So low risk. So Nathan, you're going in for low risk. And Prabha says pressure sensor because it's low risk. Okay. Okay, so if it's a pressure sensor, will make a minor loss if it fails. Okay. Francis says I would go for pressure sensor as it costs only $10,000. If it's successful, we earn $390,000. Okay. And Pio says if I can afford to spend $1 million, better take a chance and try temperature sensor. Okay, and Sivit says good gain, but if it succeeds, which one is that? Is the temperature sensor, I suppose. And okay, now this is a very beautiful situation for me to be able to have a kind of a bird's eye view to the level of risk each and every one of you is ready to take. Okay, let's go further and see some more information. Again, at this stage, this is the decision you have made. But let's go into a little bit more detail to see if we can add more information to this stuff and see whether we're going to make the same decision. Well, we're going to look at that later on. So, if either of these products should Special Instrument produce attempt to develop? So most of you have already made your choice. Okay. To answer the question 1.1, which is the one I just asked, it is useful to represent the decision as shown in figure 1.1. I think I just explained that already. Okay. Let's move on. I already explained what they're trying to do here, but let's just take a look at the literature as it's done. So the tree-like diagram, I hope everybody has the tree. Did everybody take down the tree? Because we're going to go back to that tree. Should I show the tree again? Let's just take down the tree so we can have an idea of, so maybe about 30 seconds to 1 minute, everybody can try to take down the tree on a piece of paper. Because I'm going to explain later on this box and this circle, what they mean. So I'm going to add some more information on the tree so you can also add it, insert it on your tree. It's better. It's okay. You can take a couple of minutes and put it down. That's fine. I know it's important, so I'm going to wait a bit. If you've taken it down already, you just type done. You can just type done like that. Done, okay. One done. Done again. Done. Still taking it down? Okay, another done. Okay, done. Okay, so I think we can move on now. Are there some people still drawing it? Because when I leave this page, I'm not sure I'll be able to come back to it because we're going to have a lot of information coming in, and then it's going to be a little bit complex. This is very easy, but as we're moving on, even everything we do, we can always use the decision tree. It's very interesting. I think I've used the decision tree a lot. Since I learned about the decision tree, I think almost about 70% of the decisions I make, I try to use the decision tree. But not everything, because sometimes if you do a lot of analysis, you end up still finding yourself in trouble. But again, there are certain things I really use the decision tree, which are very important. I try to use it as often as possible. And then we're going to look at some probability of decisions, because probability is the likelihood of things happening, which we cannot control. It's not in our control. So we look at the probability of success or failure and other things. So we're going to have more information coming in so you can have a better idea. At this stage, this decision tree in front of us is not very complete. It might appear a little bit very complete, it's okay, but the more we add details to it, you realize that there's more to it than we thought. Okay, let's move on. I hope everyone got it. Some people can take a snapshot. You can take a screenshot, right? I think that's better, isn't it? Yes, you can take a screenshot and instead of drawing the whole thing, you can just take a screenshot and then you can open it. Oh, that's good, Rahul. Some people already did that. But as technology is making things very easy. Oh, that's good. So I had a couple of, wow, some people were already thinking more IT-like. Okay, let's go now to the analysis. Now, the tree-like diagram in this figure is, yeah, we're going to have the slide later on, Pio. Well, it's not a slide anyway. I'm going to forward the information to everyone. Now, at the left, the left is this way, or the diagram towards the left indicates which, with a small square, you see, I told you there's a square. We're going to talk about this, is the decision to select among the three available alternatives, which are the pressure sensor, the temperature sensor, the pressure sensor, and neither. Okay, the development cost for the pressure sensor, or to develop the pressure sensor, and to develop the temperature sensor, and the alternatives are shown in the branches. So they see the branches that came out. They're all talking about the decision to develop each of that, and those or to either develop or not to develop. Now, at the right of the development costs are small circles. I told you about those small circles, which represent the uncertainty about whether the development outcome will be a success or a failure. Now, the branches to the right, because we're moving to the right, from left to right, of each circle shows the possible development outcome. So, which is very clear there. I think everybody is able to see it now. Now, on the branch representing each possible development outcome, the sales revenue is shown for the alternative. Now, I think I already explained this, so we just need to move on. And we saw, I explained how we got the 900 net profit, $900,000 net profit, and I also explained how we got the 340. Is it 340? or it's 390. 390,000 net profit for the pressure sensor. Okay, now let's add a bit more information to that. Yeah, which is that. So if you subtract the production costs, you're going to have the $390 dollars. Now, let's add some more information to that. Now, question 1.1 will be answered in the following example after we discuss the criterion for making such a decision. Now, let's look at the different criteria. You may be thinking that the decision about which alternative is preferred depends on the probability that development will be successful for the temperature or pressure sensor. This is indeed the case. Although knowing the probabilities will not by itself always make the best alternative in a decision immediately clear. Now, however, if the outcomes are the same for the different alternative and the only probabilities differ, then probabilities alone are sufficient to determine the best alternative as illustrated by example 1.1. Now, let's look at example 1.1. Now, I don't know if every one of us has a good background in probability. If not, I'm going to take a couple of classes to talk a little bit more about probability, because life and business and decisions, they're all about probability. So if anyone here, I don't know if there is anyone who has a problem with probability, you can just put maybe thumb down so I can see if I can try to do a couple of lectures on probability so we can better understand. Is there anyone who has a problem with probability? That's okay, we're in class. That's why we are registered here. It's our responsibility to clear those doubts. So I can take a couple of probability lessons, that's fine. You find it very, very necessary. Yeah, Francis, ready to learn. So I'm going to take a couple of probability lessons this month because you cannot make decisions, you cannot do a lot of things without a good background in probability. So I'll do that. Okay, let's look at this example 1.1. Now, tossing a dial. We know what a dial is, don't we? Let me try to draw a dial. Well, I can't draw very well because I don't have a drawing board here, but let me just try. Let's say this is let me take that out. Oh, sorry, I went and destroyed that stuff. Okay, let me draw a dial. Yeah, that's something like a dial, and I think my drawing is not too bad. Okay, and then you can have maybe a 1 here, or you can have a 2. You can have, so it has different sides, isn't it? So we can imagine a dial. We can roll a dial or something. Now, suppose you are offered 2 alternatives, each of which consists of a single toss of a fair die. When they say a fair die, it's a die that the probability of any of the sides showing are all equal. There are 6 sides of a dial, and the probability of any of those sides showing up, they're all equal. Now, with the first alternative, you will win $10. Now, take this down. You will win $10 if any number greater than 4 is thrown. For example, if you throw your dial and you have 5 or a 6, then you win $10. Again, if you throw the dial, the die, and then you have a 5 or a 6 because they are greater than 4, you win $10 and lose $5 otherwise. So if you have a 4, if you have a 3, if you have a 2, if you have a 1, you're going to lose $5 $5. Now, with the second alternative, you will win $10 if any number greater than 3 is thrown. For example, if you throw the die, and then you have a 4, a 5, or a 6, you win $10. And you lose $5 otherwise. So if you have 3, 2, 1, you're going to lose $5. In each case, since there are 6 faces on a die, the probability of winning is 2/6. Why is it 2/6? For example, in the first probability, let's say you can throw any number greater than 4 and you win $5. What does it mean? How many numbers are greater than 4 in the 6-face die? There are 2. Yeah, there are 2 faces that have numbers greater than 4. So which means we have 2 chances. And how many faces are there in total in the die? There are 6. That's very good. So because we are expecting 2 outcomes from the 6 possible outcomes. So that is why we have a 6 on 2, which is, if you simplify it, is a 1/3. Now for the first alternative. And for the second alternative, they say if you throw any number greater than 3. So how many possibilities do we have? We have 6 possibilities equal. But what is our expected outcome? What do we expect? We expect there are 3, because if you have numbers greater than 3, it can be 4, it can be 5, and it can be 6. So we have 3 possibility, 3 expected outcomes. So we have 3 here, and then the total number of outcomes, there's 6 of them. So we have a 1/2 probability for the second alternative. Now, since the consequences are the same for both alternatives, and the probability of winning is greater for the second, because you have a 1/2 probability of winning, but here you only have a 1/3 probability of winning. So the probability of winning for the second alternative is higher than the probability of winning for the first alternative. Now, so the second alternative is the best choice. So you should choose the second alternative because you have a higher probability of winning. Okay. Now, however, the possible outcomes are often not the same in realistic business decisions, and this causes additional complexity because you don't know whether you're going to be part of the you're going to fall in the probability of losing, or you're going to fall in the probability of winning. Now, as illustrated by further consideration on the special instrument product decision in example 1.1. Now, let's take the notion of probability and go back to the special instrument product. Now, to also have more information on the free lecture on probability, you can also visit different sites like Khan Academy. I think they have a great lecture on probability. They're all free. So you can subscribe to it and you can go through some free material. They're very, very awesome. They're great. So you can improve your probability. However, I'm going to bring up a lot of lessons on probability because it's going to help us in making decisions. Now let's go back to the special product problem. We have a production decision, and just a second. Okay. Now, suppose that the example 1.1 Yeah, sorry, I just went off. I had a problem with the internet. It's back again. Okay. Um, Prabhu says that's what I was thinking. The voice is off again. Is it okay now? Okay, fine. That's good. Okay, let's go back. I'm going to come back to I'm going to address those questions. They're very interesting worries and thoughts. Okay. Now, the probability of success is one. Yeah, hello. Sorry, I think I had a problem with the internet, but I just used now the cable connection. Well, this IT so it's not. Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. I just reconnected. I hope it's okay. Um, okay. Now, so the probability. I asked a question. Which probability is higher? Is it to develop the temperature sensor or the pressure sensor? Good. So the probability of developing the temperature sensor of success, not just developing, the probability of success with the pressure sensor is high. So many people would like to decide on developing a pressure sensor. Now, in figure 1.2, which we already saw, I already gave it to you, is a diagram with these probabilities shown in parentheses. Okay, it's down. I'm going to show it to you in parentheses. These I don't know. Something is definitely wrong. Maybe the internet doesn't like our class, but we're going to continue anyway. Now, if you look at the first, the initial decision, there are three of them. There are three options. There are three alternatives. Yeah, well, that's the issue with technology. You can never be 100%. You can never be 100% reliable. Now, the probability of developing of succeeding in the development of the temperature sensor is 0.5 success and 0.5 failure, so which is equal. Now, but when it comes to the probability of the pressure sensor to succeed, there's more probability that it's going to be successful. There's more probability that the pressure sensor is going to be successful and less probability that it's going to be a failure. Now let's go to, again, we're going to have more information added to it. Let's see. Okay, now, while only the probability of success is specified for each development effort, the probability of failure is determined by the rules of probability, since the probabilities of development success and development failure must add up to 1. So, total probability of all the events in a particular situation must always add up to 1 or 100%. Now, a study of figure 1.2 shows that having the probabilities does not resolve these decisions for us. Now, the figure shows that although the probability of development success is considerably low for the temperature sensor than it is for the pressure sensor, that is 0.5 and 0.8, which we just looked at together, the net profit from successful development of the temperature sensor is considerably high than the net profit from successful development of the pressure sensor. So let's go down again and continue this. Okay, good. So we have the net profit from the temperature sensor is higher than for the pressure sensor. That is, the alternative with high potential payoff has a lower probability than this payoff will actually be realized. So the more risk, the more the payoff, the less risk, the less the payoff. Now, the resolution of this decision dilemma is addressed in the next section. But before doing this, let's define a few issues. Let's define a few words. I think there is a hand raised. Razy. Let me hear what is Rafik. You want to say something about the probability we're talking about? Okay, let's look at a couple of decisions. They're important. Now we have in the diagram of a decision as illustrated in figure 1.2, it's called a decision tree, which all of us know by now. So that diagram is called a decision tree. Now this diagram is read from left to right. So you read it from your left to your right. And the leftmost node is a decision, in a decision tree is called a root node. That is the first node, is called the root node. In figure 1.2, this is a small square. I showed you the square. It's there. That is called the root node. Or you can call it a decision node. That is a decision node. The first node is the decision node. So you decide what to do. Now the branches emanating to the right from a decision node represents the set of decision alternatives that are available. So in that case, we have three alternatives. You either do the temperature sensor, the pressure sensor, or you don't do either of them. So there are three alternatives you can choose from. One and only one of these alternatives can be selected. You cannot select two of them. If you look at the tree, the branches you cannot have two of the branches together. They are separate. So you can only select one of the branches. So you can only arrive at one decision at any one time. Now the small circles, I think you've seen the small circles there, in the tree are called chance nodes. So there are chances of these decisions succeeding. The numbers shown in parentheses on each branch of a chance node is the probability that the outcome shown on that branch will occur. So that's the probability that that particular chance will occur. And the right end of each path through the tree is called the end point. And each endpoint represents the final outcome of following a path from the root node of the decision tree to the endpoint. Now that's something a little bit to clear up a few things. Now here you can see it again. Now, for example, we had a value of this tree, this probability, this decision tree is for this particular example. So let's take a look at it again and see what's going to come out of it. Now, in order to decide which alternative to select in a decision problem, we need a decision criterion. Now, I asked, in the very beginning, we looked at a couple of criterion which you're going to put in place to decide whether to go for higher education or not. So similar for all other problems, all other decisions you have to make, there must be some criterion. That is a rule for making a decision. Now, expected value is the criterion for making a decision as well. For example, if your criterion is finance, you realize you're going for the temperature sensor. But if finance is not the major criterion, then you're going to go for a pressure sensor. Both of the possible outcomes for each decision alternative and the probability that each outcome will occur, they're all important part of the criterion. Now, to illustrate the concept of expected value, we consider a similar decision with low stakes than the special instrument product decision. Now, let's look at a decision with a low stake. It means low complexity, low. Let's take a look. Rolling a die. Again, we're going back to the die. A friend proposed a wager. Now, what does it say? You will pay her $9 and then a fair die will be rolled. If the die end up a 3, if the die comes up a 3, a 4, a 5, or a 6, then your friend will pay you $15. And if the die comes up a 1 or a 2, she will pay you nothing. Furthermore, your friend agrees to repeat this game as many times as you wish to play. Now, would you play the game? That's the question. And why would you play the game? Look, use the probability to explain. This is the game. A friend proposes a wager. What is the wager going to be? What are the conditions? You will pay her $9 and then a fair die will be rolled. Now, if the die comes up a 3, a 4, a 5, or a 6, then your friend will pay you $15. If the die comes up 1 or 2, she will pay you nothing, so you lose your $9. But if you win, that is a 3, a 4, a 5, or a 6 comes up, then she's going to pay you $15. So how many dollars do you? how many dollars do you gain? So it's going to be 15 minus 9. Okay. Now, if you say you're going to play, that's $6. That's correct. Now, how many people are going to play and how many will not want to play? Francis says he's going to play. Okay. Okay, Prabha is going to play. Savid will play. Okay, now let's look at the probability. Let's not just jump into that. Now, if a 6-sided die is fair, good. I can see 4 and 6. That's fine before we got it. There is a 1/6 probability that any specified side will come up on a roll. So it's a fair die. Now, what does it say? If, therefore, there is a 4 on 6 probability that you will win, because 4 numbers, 1, 2, 3, and 4 will come up. Now, figure 1.3 shows a decision tree for one play of the game. Let's look at figure 1.3. That is what is up there. I said I was going to come back to it. Okay. So if you accept the offer, you're going to pay $9. Now, if you win, the probability of winning is 2 on 3, and the probability of losing is 1 on 3. So if you win, if you're successful, then your friend is going to pay you $15, which means your net profit is $6. But if you fail, you're going to pay your friend, you're going to lose your $9, this $9 you gave your friend. And if you reject the offer, there's nothing to lose. So let's go back to it. You wanted to take down the tree as well? You can have a snapshot. That's very easy, isn't it? Okay, that's it. Just take a snapshot, everybody. There you go. Okay. Okay. Now, the key to logically analyzing this decision is to realize that your friend will let you play the game as many times as possible, which means your chances of winning is high. So that is why your friend says he's going to play, let you play it as many times as possible. So the question I want to give today to wrap up the class before we continue with the probability and then go back to the decision, how much will you gain if you have to play this game 1,500 times? Please take down the question. How much will you gain if you have to play this game 1,500 times? And how much will you lose if you play the game 1,500 times? Again, this is the question. Go back. This is the probability of, let me go back to the question. This is the question here. So you can take it down. Yeah, this is the question. And if you play 1,000 times, and how much will you lose if you 1,500 times? I beg your pardon. Okay, we're going to correct that in the next class. So I hope it's a new opening and have a nice